All right, so what's up? Today I want to know from the truck drivers in our network or that may see this video, I would like to know from you, is this really happening in the truck driving industry? Are drivers now being blacklisted by trucking companies if they don't fulfill a certain contract term, right? Because I was reading an article just last night. It's called "Trucking Companies Train You on the Job, Just Don't Try to Quit." This is in the New York Times. And I want to know from you, is this really happening or is this just like fake news? Because usually people tend to say, something is fake if they don't want it to be true. So I'm asking you, is this true or not for drivers within the network? Have you seen this type of stuff happening? This man named Wayne Orr, he's from South Carolina, right? And he was working with a company called CRST Expedited. He was moving a load and he was coming from Texas going back into South Carolina, and he realized that he was having some serious problem with his foot. And once he got back to his home station, he realized his foot was broken. So he took about 6 weeks without pay to heal himself so his foot can get back where it needed to be so he could start driving again. Now, during the time that he was out, CRST fired him. And he had a clause in the contract that he signed. You see, he signed a contract with CRST because they provided the training for him so that he could get his CDL. It was like a 6-week training or 2-week training, as a matter of fact. 2 weeks training in exchange for 10 months of him working with CRST. So that 2 weeks training, they said cost $6,500. If you don't give them 10 months, you have to come back and pay them $6,500, or you cannot move forward and work with any other trucking company. You are blacklisted. According to this article, this is what happened to Wayne Orr. He was fired by CRST. Once he realized he was fired, what he said was, okay, I need to go and get another job. That's what any man would do, you would think. So he goes over to Schneider, gets hired on by Schneider. Well, CRST finds out about that and they threaten to sue Schneider. So I don't think the article said this, but Schneider would say, hey, I don't want any problems with a lawsuit, so we're gonna have to let you go. So at some point after Schneider notifies him of what's going on, he goes back to CRST to try and get his job back. But CRST tells him that we no longer need your services, and you have to pay us that $6,500 back before you can work with any other trucking companies. Is that really happening? Is it really happening that way in the trucking industry? Do you see drivers that go through that same experience? Because I'm sure drivers that are now owner-operators may have worked with companies before they were owner-operators. Are you seeing that out there? Have you had this type of experience? And what do you think about that? I know that companies have to protect themselves. I know that, we go through a whole lot of high turnover in the trucking industry. I think it says 9 out of 10 drivers won't stay with a trucking company for a 12-month period of time. But now, of course, I think that's for a reason. I think it's probably some of the reason is when you get with that trucking company, things aren't like you thought they would be. Those promises that they made, they fall just short of those in a lot of different areas. So I think truck drivers get out there and they recognize that and they want to go to somewhere that offers a better or more attractive offer. That's just the American way. Everybody wants to keep moving up the ladder. But of course, trucking companies have to protect themselves also. So how do you see that? Truck driving companies just aren't offering enough to keep good drivers? Or is it that drivers are just walking out on trucking companies and they have to do this type of stuff to insulate themselves? How do you see that? Let us know in the comment section below. So here's what I think. I think that is my responsibility or your responsibility if you're going to work for a trucking company to read the contract, to understand what you're getting yourself into, and to also understand there's risk that comes with accepting that type of contract. Saying that I am going to work with you for a 10-month period, I don't know what will happen within those 10 months. And I also know if I sign that type of contract saying you're going to pay me $6,500 or you'll give me a training worth $6,500, and if I don't fulfill a 10-month assignment, then you can come back and get that $6,500. I know in my mind you're more likely to fire me in the early stages if you see or if you think that there's something wrong with me or if I'm not going to come to work as often as you would like. If something happens and I have an injury, you say, oh, he's injury prone, this is going to continue to happen, you'll have a bigger incentive to fire me, because you know I have to give you $6,500 back. So I think we have to look at that, understand what we're getting ourselves into, and decide whether this is something I want to do or should not do it right now. Because to tie yourself into a contract for a 10-month period of time, to give another company your services for 10 months for $6,500 for a 2-week training, you have to look at that and see, is that equal value? And if you don't agree with that, you don't sign that type of contract. I don't think anybody should give someone else, give a company the responsibility to do right by you. No, I am going to do right by me. You have to do right by you. And when you're doing right by you, you don't accept certain things. You realize that you bring value to the table. They are jockeying. They are trying to position themselves to get your services. So you don't just accept anything. You read the contract, and if you don't agree with certain parts of it, you don't accept those parts. As long as you accept certain things, those things will be written into those contracts. And if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. That's what I wanted to share with you today. I certainly hope this information has been helpful. If you want to learn more about the freight broker business, I'll leave a free link in the description. It's my 5-video series, and I titled it How the Load Movement Process Works. It brings you into my office with me, and you can watch as I move loads, talk to shippers and carriers. That way you can get a better understanding of how this business works before you come into it. And then if you're interested in learning more about learning how to transition from a part-time freight broker to a full-time freight broker, I'll leave a free video right here. So until the next time, I wish you the very best in your life and business. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.